So summer is officially over, and that means it's time for a summer reading wrap-up. I'm going to try to get through all these reviews without spoiling as much as I can. I cannot guarantee that there won't be spoilers though, because I like to yap, and then once I get yapping, I might let something slip. So fair warning. If you read any of the books that I'm about to talk about, please let me know down in the comments what your thoughts were. Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I would love to know. So I started with It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey, and this book is part of a duology called the Bellinger Sisters, and then the second book in this duology is Hook, Line, and Sinker. I did get through that one as well, but starting with It Happened One Summer. So this one is small town romance, grumpy sunshine, self-discovery, and found family, I would say. So this book follows Piper, who is considered a glamorous influencer in LA, and she is sent to this small coastal town as a sort of punishment, realistically, after a wild night out by her stepfather. We also have Brendan, who is a local fisherman who is gruff and serious, very outdoorsy, and unlike anyone that Piper has been associated with in the past. Her sister did also go with her because her sister said that I'm not going to let Piper go by herself. So we have Hannah, who is a secondary character. And overall, the story just focuses on Piper's personal growth, small town communities, and then her, of course, evolving relationship with Brendan. So going into this, people had said that this is sort of a Schitt's Creek inspired book. And if I hadn't heard that, I would not have thought that reading this book. I guess they're relating Piper to Alexis, but quite frankly, Alexis is a much more enjoyable character. I think my problem with this is really Brendan. I didn't really care for his character. Piper, she's going on a journey, a lot of self-growth here, putting others before herself, which sure we like, but just the whole romance with Brendan, I was kind of like, meh. I really enjoyed the setting of this book. It gave some more insight into the fishing community, which I've never really read about. It was sort of giving Deadliest Catch, the one on A&E, I want to say, just what people in the community expect when their loved ones go out on a fishing trip. Sometimes they might not come back depending on the weather, depending on how things go. Are they going to get a successful catch this year? So all of those things I actually did find really interesting. I found the spice in this book to be very cringy. And I have read a couple other Tessa Bailey books, which I would say that's maybe just her style when she's doing contemporary romance. Because I think Fangirl is what I read from her recently, and I enjoyed that book. I just didn't care for the way she writes her spice. It was just like, And I felt that as well as I was reading this book. I didn't actually care for the romance of this book. I wish it was kind of just Piper going along her way, making her own path, and just Brendan somewhere else, quite frankly. So I'm a little torn on my rating for this. I wanted to give it a 2. I might bump it up 2.5. We'll say 2.5. Because again, I enjoyed reading about Piper growing as a person, not being as shallow as she was in LA, really caring about people in the community, finding her sense of self. I enjoyed that. So the second book was Hook, Line, and Sinker by Tessa Bailey. So this one follows Hannah, Piper's sister. So this one is a friends to lovers, personal growth, self-development, breaking stereotype. There is some self-loathing, negative self-image, emotional baggage. So just some things to keep in mind. So this one takes place about a year after the first one, I would say. Hannah had gone back to LA, living her life. She comes back to the small town for a movie project that she's working on. She ends up having to stay with Fox, who we did also see in the first book. He's Brendan's best friend, essentially. So I think just because, again, it's a small town, there's not enough room for the entire cast and crew for this movie. She was going to stay with Piper, but Brendan's parents are visiting, I think. So Fox is considered the ultimate playboy, I would say. We did see a bit of their friendship developing in the first book. So Fox agrees to help Hannah with this crush that she has on the movie director. It's a crush that she's had for quite a while because it is mentioned in the first book. But of course, going through that, feelings develop, and then she tries to get Fox to see himself as more than just the town playboy. He tries to show her that she's the main character of her story. She's not a background character in everyone's life. I loved the behind-the-scene movie production elements to it, and I love how you can see that music really shaped Hannah's career and what she wants to do. Again, her friendship with Fox was really enjoyable to read, at least for me. I really appreciated the support that they would give to each other. On the flip side, I really hated her crush on Sergey, who was the movie director. That is so 14 years old to me. And it comes up multiple times, like, oh, my crush on Sergey, my crush on Sergey. I have such a crush on him. And I was just like, girl, I don't know, not my thing. And you could just clearly see that Sergey wasn't worth it anyway. So it's like, what are you doing? You've had a crush on someone for 2 years? Like, what? Interestingly, Fox has a lot of self-loathing, and you obviously read about it more in the book. Reading the book, you sort of understand why he has those feelings about himself, the things that people have told him in the past, especially as a kid. Kids are impressionable, so you tell them one thing, they're going to stick with that about themselves forever. So I understand it. I just kind of wish he owned up to it a lot sooner and overcame it a lot sooner. This one was more of a slow burn compared to the first one. Still not my favorite spice, but at least it was a little bit better in that aspect. And again, it feels like it started in book one, quite frankly. So from there, you're sort of waiting like, are they going to get together? Are they going to get together? Are they going to get together? So I'm going to change my rating on the first book. I'm going to give It Happened One Summer a 2 out of 5. And then I'm going to give Hook, Line, and Sinker 2.5 out of 5. I'm happy with that. Next, I read the Rom-Commers by Katherine Center. So we have Emma, who is a huge rom-com lover. She is invited to Hollywood to help rewrite a struggling rom-com script. And then we have Charlie, her co-writer, who really only took this project on because he is trying to get another one of his projects greenlit. And one of the conditions was that he needs to do a rom-com first. So he doesn't love rom-coms at all. He is not invested in this. He just wants to get it over and done with. So as they work together, Emma tries to convince Charlie of the charm and the magic of a rom-com and how it makes people feel. So the story follows their collaboration on the script and of course the gradual progression of their relationship. I listened to this one in audiobook, but I really enjoyed the concept of a rom-com writing about a rom-com, you know? The book includes moments of breaking the fourth wall, which I thought were really fun. So Emma would sort of talk directly to you as the reader. And I don't know if I've had that in a book before. So I enjoyed that. There's actually no spice in this book, so I think anyone can read it. And I didn't feel that the lack of spice took away from watching their relationship develop. My only gripe with this one is that there were references to rom-coms and it just seemed like they were fake. I don't know if licensing is the right term or just getting permission to mention a movie in a book. I'm not sure how complicated that is, but I wish there was more references to real life rom-coms like How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, Made in Manhattan, you know, all the classic rom-coms. I wish they had those referenced in the book because I think it just would have been perfection. Overall, I really enjoyed this book. This was my first book by Katherine Center, and I would say 4 out of 5. So this one is more forced proximity, grumpy sunshine, breaking the fourth wall, behind the scenes of screenwriting, which is also interesting. There is brief mentions of grief and losing a parent in this one, so just keep that in mind. My next book was another Katherine Center, and this one is The Bodyguard. So Hannah is a professional bodyguard hired to protect a famous actor, Jack, while he's staying at his family home in Texas. Jack has a stalker that they are trying to figure out who it is. That is why his team hired a protection detail for him. They don't think there's any threat on his life, but because he is going back to visit his family, he also wants to make sure that his family is not in any danger from this potential stalker. To avoid public attention, she has to pretend to be his girlfriend. As she carries out her job, feelings start to develop between Jack and Hannah. The book focuses on their professional and personal dynamics as they get to know each other. I thought this one was such a charming, feel-good story. I loved the ranch setting, maybe because I read it in the summer. It was just giving cozy, outdoor, sunshine vibes, like being at a cottage or on a retreat. Again, no spice in this one, so anyone can read it. I really enjoyed reading Hannah and Jack's story. I want to say like the little things that Jack would do or notice about Hannah. So this one is a fake dating, opposites attract, healing, family bonds. There are mentions of PTSD from drunk driving and drowning, so keep in mind. I think a 4 out of 5 for me on this one. I was trying to think if I like it better than the Rom-Commers. I really like both of those books. I'm excited to read more from Katherine Center. If you have any other recommendations, please let me know down in the comments. And if you're enjoying this video so far, please consider giving it a thumbs up. It really helps out me and my channel, and it's free. So next I read Say You'll Remember Me by Abby Jimenez. So we have Samantha, who works in social media, and then we have Xavier, who is a vet. After their first initial meeting, they are immediately drawn to each other. They go on a very great first date. However, Samantha is moving back home to take care of her mother. So she kind of thought this was going to be a one and done date. So this story follows their relationship as they navigate these challenges while spending time with each other. Sam and her family taking care of her mother that has dementia. Xavier dealing with his controlling, demanding parents as well. So this one explores the characters' personal growth and how their lives intersect while dealing with all this emotional family dynamics. This is going to be controversial, but I did not love this book. I just felt like it was just sad. Everything about it just kind of made me sad. And I know with Abby Jimenez books, there's always that personal life conflict in every single one of her books. They're not just like fluffy romance reads. But this one was, I think, the most out of all of the books that I've read. I loved the veterinary aspect of it. I love learning about why Xavier wanted to be a vet in the first place and how he navigates having opened up his own clinic and trying to keep that afloat. I don't know, I just felt like the family dynamic from Sam's part was taking up quite a bit of the story. Just all of her family members trying to navigate her mom having dementia and taking care of her. And again, just really sad to read about. I don't know anyone that has dementia, so I haven't had to experience that. So if you have, this might be a trigger warning for you. I didn't love the instant attraction in this one. Again, they meet and then they go on a date and then she moves. And you kind of just read about him trying to figure out how to see her again, even though she's moved across the country. And it just felt unrealistic, in my opinion, and maybe a little bit extreme. That's just me. I would love to know your thoughts. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I think I just prefer reading about people becoming friends and seeing that relationship develop, even if they're enemies. I want to read about them being enemies for a while. I don't want to just like, boom, you're the one. It's not a bad book. I just don't think it's what I wanted to read in the summer. So in this one, I would say there's instant attraction, grumpy sunshine, toxic family dynamic, complicated love, and caregiving. Some trigger warnings on this one is dementia, parental affair, strained relationships with family members. I want to put it at like a 2.5. I know, it sounds bad, but again, out of all the Abby Jimenez books, and I've read through all of them now, I don't think I would ever pick that one up again, quite frankly. So next we have Life's Too Short by Abby Jimenez. So this one follows Vanessa and Adrian Copeland, who is cousins to Justin Copeland from Just Friends, her debut book. So we have Vanessa, who is a YouTuber whose life is upended when Vanessa's sister leaves her baby in Vanessa's care and takes off. We learn that Vanessa's sister has an addiction problem, which is a reason why she left her baby to Vanessa. Vanessa faces some serious health considerations and has to manage them while taking care of her niece. Adrian, her neighbor, helps her out one night when she's struggling to put her niece to sleep, and then he slowly becomes involved in their daily lives, and then of course a relationship develops over the course of the story. I love the YouTube aspect of this one because obviously here we are on YouTube. Every chapter does start with a clickbaity video title sort of thing, which is fun to read about. I really admired how Vanessa just stepped up to take care of her niece. It was so commendable and really just made me root for her because I don't know what I would do if my sister was like, oh, take care of your niece now, even though you have no experience taking care of a baby and your life does not accommodate taking care of a baby. But she was like, I gotta do it. Adrian, I forgot to mention, is a lawyer. And interestingly enough, it actually felt like out of all the Abby Jimenez books, this one was the career that they didn't really go into much detail about. It felt like for a lot of it, he wasn't working, or they just don't really talk about it. He just talks about getting home from work. There were obviously a few mentions of like his career aspirations work-wise, but I guess not as much compared to Vanessa. Adrian did frustrate me at times, especially when he wasn't respecting her choice regarding her health. And he was just like, no, you should be doing this. Did not love that. For this one, I would say 3.5 out of 5. So this one is forced proximity, opposites attract, caretaking, found family, and some emotional healing in there. There are mentions of ALS, child abandonment, and toxic family dynamics, which quite frankly is just a number one theme, I would say, in Abby Jimenez books. Next, I read the Happily Ever After playlist by Abby Jimenez. So we have Sloane, who is still grieving the loss of her fiance. We did meet Sloane in Just Friends, the first book from Abby Jimenez. She finds a dog just wandering the street. So she takes him home. She calls the owner and gets no response back. I believe she tried for a couple weeks, texting, leaving voice messages, calling, and nothing. So she decided, this is my dog now. I'm keeping this dog. Finally, she gets a response back from Jason. He is Tucker, the dog's owner, and he wants his dog back. Sloane is obviously like, how do I know you care for this dog? Because you didn't answer any of my text messages or calls for the last few weeks. And then lo and behold, he is a famous musician and he has been on tour in another country, which is why he was never able to contact her back. So we follow Sloane's journey of moving forward in life while dealing with her grief. It combines romance with healing and second chance. I was really excited about this book because obviously if you have read Just Friends, you know how devastating it is. We do get to see some characters from the first book. Kristen and Josh, of course, make an appearance. I do enjoy how Abby threads characters across books. I think what stood out the most to me in this book was just the way Sloane's grief was handled. It felt very respectful to the relationship that she lost while still allowing her to open her heart in a new way. And I just loved reading about it because, again, you read about this relationship in Just Friends and you're so excited and happy for them, and then you're devastated. So I was curious also to see how it would be like reading about her in a new relationship, but I thought it was really well done. I'm gonna be honest, there isn't much that I didn't like in this book. Funny enough, I don't think any toxic family dynamics in this book, surprisingly, because I feel like that is sort of a go-to motif for Abby sometimes. There is more some personal growth in this, I would say, for both characters. So for me, this one was a 4 out of 5. This one talks about grief and second chances, healing through love, found family, and I would say a trigger warning here is grief from losing a partner. Next, I read Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez. So we have Alexis, who has always lived her life based on her family's expectations and the prestige that they value. She ends up in a small town after a funeral and meets Daniel, who is a down-to-earth carpenter slash mayor of the small town slash bed and breakfast manager, and they start a casual fling. Over time, the relationship, of course, grows deeper, which challenges Alexis to really think about what she wants from her life. The story explores her family dynamics and the pressure that she faces from her family and social circles, while Daniel tries to figure out how he can convince Alexis to give their relationship and their love a shot. So I was not expecting to like this book as much as I did. The age gap and the wealth disparity seemed like huge deal breakers when I first started reading this. But reading more about Alexis and Daniel's relationship was just so compelling, I would say. Their chemistry was strong. I love watching their relationship grow beyond a fling. At times, I just wanted to yell at Alexis to be like, girl, open your eyes. You're so in love with him. What are you doing? That's how invested I was in this. I listened to the audiobook, and there were literally times where I would just sit here and just listen because I wanted to know how it was going to go. And I find usually for me with audiobooks, I'm always doing something while I'm listening to the audiobook. I'm going for a walk, I'm cleaning, I'm cooking. And I was just sitting here, just listening because I needed to keep going with the story. So obviously Alexis was gonna have to finally face her family and friends about her relationship with Daniel. And I was really, really hoping that she was gonna have the fire to stick up for their relationship. And she didn't. Sorry, spoiler. I mean, she got there at the end, so that's fine. But in that moment, I was really reading it being like, Alexis, do the right thing, do the right thing, do the right thing. Surprisingly for me, I would say this one was a 4.5 out of 5. Probably one of my favorite Abby Jimenez books, surprisingly enough. I will say though, this book made me realize how connected all the Abby Jimenez books are. I have heard other people say that you could kind of read them in whatever order. They're kind of like standalone. In my opinion, no, they are not. There are characters in Part of Your World that you see in another book down the line. So when I had read that book, I did not put those connections together because obviously I didn't read this book first. And I would love to know if you had read that one, which was Just for the Summer, I want to say, what was your experience reading that if you read Part of Your World first? Because now I'm like, I think I would have had a completely different experience reading that one if I had read them all in order. So in my opinion, if you're going to read her books, just read them in order. So this one has opposites attract, found family, wealth class divide, age gap romance, small town community versus toxic high society. A lot going on in this one. This one does touch upon domestic violence, so that is a trigger warning. And then, of course, controlling and toxic family dynamic. Next, we have Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. So this one follows Brianna and Jacob, who start off as co-workers who don't get along. Brianna's brother is very sick and needs a new kidney, I believe. They have been trying to get a donor. He's on the donor list, but it's taking a long time. Jacob realizes that he is a match with Brianna's brother, so he has agreed to donate his kidney. He was trying to not tell her about it, but she does find out anyways. So then she says, like, what can I do for you? And he says, actually, I need a girlfriend for my brother's wedding because my brother is getting married to my ex-girlfriend. And Brianna is like, absolutely, I will do this. Brianna is completely on board, not only for what Jacob is doing for her brother, but just because she was like, this is going to be fun. I would have done this even if you weren't giving my brother a kidney. So obviously, as they navigate this relationship, their feelings start to change. They both struggle with miscommunication and trying to figure out what the other person is thinking and feeling. So along the way, they both learn about each other's personal challenges, and the story follows how their relationship develops from friendship to romance. I would say that I enjoyed maybe the first half of this book. I loved watching Brianna and Jacob become friends and then start to care for each other. That part felt really genuine and engaging, and you're really rooting for them. That said, it was so frustrating how long it took Brianna and Jacob to figure out they both liked each other. All of Abby Jimenez's books are dual POV. So you read Brianna's chapter, you read Jacob's chapter. And the way they both misinterpret situations was so exasperating for me. I wanted to just DNF it because I'm tired of these people. Even at the end, when things seemed like they were wrapped up nicely, just boom, twist. And it was like, why? Why did we need that? Abby Jimenez books tend to be a roller coaster of emotions as you read through them. And I would say this one was the worst roller coaster, just in how happy it made me, how frustrated it made me, how angry it made me. I still found this book enjoyable. There were just definitely situations that were testing me in it. Loved that we got to see Alexis and Daniel again from Part of Your World. So Brianna is Alexis's best friend. You do meet her in that book as well. Very briefly, I would say. We don't get too much from her. So I would say this one is a 3.5 out of 5. It's just funny thinking about how emotional I got in being angry and frustrated and happy while reading this book. But overall, still a good book. So this one sort of enemies to lovers, fake dating, slow burn romance, and then friendship to love, I would say. Trigger warnings here is mental illness and anxiety, I would say. So next we have all of the Carley Fortune books. Yes, I did get through all 4. First we have Every Summer After. So this one follows Sam and Percy as teenagers, sharing summers together at the lake house in Canada. But a falling out drove them apart and they have not spoken in years. Percy goes back to Barry's Bay for Sam's mother's funeral, and they finally have to face each other and their unresolved feelings from the past. I loved the Canadian summer references in here. The Tim Hortons, the pizza, the Hudson's Bay blanket. That made the story really cozy and authentic to me. And I do think Carley lives in Toronto or has lived in Toronto, so everything spot on. This is a past and present timeline, and I find that I usually struggle with that, but I think it worked really well here, and I really loved seeing the characters go from teenagers to young adults. I'm not a big YA reader. I don't really care to read YA, but reading them in their youth, developing their feelings was very sweet to me. I did really enjoy it. So the whole time while reading it, you're trying to figure out what was their falling out about, what happened. Quite frankly, didn't love the reason. I kind of understand why it happened, but even then, it's just like, that is a choice. That is a choice you made. Doesn't matter what else was going on. You made this choice. For her first book, I did really enjoy it. Again, maybe I'm just partial to the Canadian summer aspect of it because I just feel like if you know, you know. Canadian summer is going to the cottage, small towns. I do feel like things wrapped up very quickly, which I didn't care for. I thought there would be a little bit more to it. The present timeline was kind of quick. I think only about a weekend. So just thinking of it in that aspect, they haven't talked in 10 years, maybe more than that. And then just all of a sudden, in a span of 3 days, it's like, oh, okay. Overall, an enjoyable, nostalgic summer read. I think this was exactly what I wanted to read in the summer. So spot on. This one for me was a 3.5 out of 5. This one is friends to lovers, young love, coming of age, and second chance romances, I would say. So next we have Meet Me at the Lake by Carley Fortune. This one follows Fern and Will. So this one follows Fern and Will, who have an amazing, spontaneous day in Toronto during their early 20s. They make a pact to meet each other at a certain location 1 year later, but Will did not show up. That, of course, left Fern heartbroken and confused, but she goes on living her life. Fast forward 10 years later, Fern's mother has unfortunately passed away. She has inherited her mother's lakeside resort, so she is now taking on the responsibility of managing it in honor of her mother. And who is there at the resort? Lo and behold, Will, who was hired by Fern's late mother to be a consultant to help the lakeside resort generate more business. The story follows their attempts to face the past and see if what they shared can have a future. I loved the Toronto setting for the first bit of this book. As someone born and raised in Toronto, this was just so nostalgic to me of my youth, just always heading into downtown, going to different restaurants to eat, going to different parks. Perfection. This one also had alternating past and present timelines. So again, I still did enjoy it. I think it's just Carley's writing style that made it a little bit more better to read than in other books that I've previously read. Fern takes us through some of her mother's old letters, so you do get to read some of that, which was very touching. I did not love Will's explanation of why he didn't meet her. I said this in my long weekend reading vlog where I read all the Carley Fortune books in one weekend, but the way it was written in the book did not make it very clear to me what the reason was. She does explain it a bit more in the author's notes, so after reading that, I was like, oh, okay, I guess that makes sense. Going back to the story though, I do think that if he had met her and told her what he was going through and what he was feeling, I feel like she would have understood, quite frankly. Overall, probably my least favorite Carley Fortune book since I've read all 4 now, but it still had moments that I really enjoyed. So this one is a 3 out of 5 for me. This is a friends to lovers, second chance romance, young adult nostalgia. It does talk about postpartum PTSD, emotional distress, and some miscommunications. Next we have The Summer Will Be Different by Carley Fortune. So we have Lucy, who has been spending summers at her best friend Bridget's family home on Prince Edward Island. On her first visit, she hooks up with Felix. The fling doesn't stay one night. Over the summers, it becomes a secret on-again, off-again thing that just keeps on pulling them back together. When Bridget suddenly runs away 2 weeks before her wedding, Lucy drops everything to go to the island to be with her, and then she comes face to face with Felix. Now that they're older, they have to deal with the consequences of their choices, the ways they've changed, and what they actually want from each other. I absolutely loved the PI setting in this book. It made me want to immediately book a trip there. Lucy and Felix's first meeting was a very fun surprise. I'm not going to ruin it because I loved it. I didn't see it coming for some reason, which I should have, but I loved it. Let me know if you saw it coming. I absolutely loved that Felix was an oyster shucker. I love oysters. I should eat more oysters. So it was fun reading about that as a career. The coastal backdrop here really just made the story feel so alive, so vibrant, and I could just feel myself being there, even though I've never been there. A big part of the story is really Bridget and Lucy's friendship, which was really touching to read about. Just having such a best friend like they are to each other was very sweet. I would say this one was set more in the present. There was still some past timeline, but it wasn't as alternating as the 2 previous books. I want to say this was maybe like a few chapters in the present, maybe 1 chapter in the past, and then a few more chapters in the present. So I did really like that change up, especially as I read them consecutively over 4 days. I wasn't a fan of Lucy's decision at the end that she had sort of come to. I really respected Felix for like holding his ground on his decision and just giving her time to really think through that decision. You know, encouraging her to love herself and rediscover herself first. This one is a 4 out of 5 for me. I love the setting, love the friendship. Also enjoyed the romance between Lucy and Felix and them getting to the place where they are both happy. This one is a coastal summer fling, self-discovery, friendship. This one does talk about grief from losing a loved one, so just be aware of that. And lastly, we have One Golden Summer by Carley Fortune. So this one brings us back to Barry's Bay, and this one follows Charlie, Sam's brother from book 1. This one's opposites attract, family bonds, personal growth, guess sort of a second chance romance a little bit. We have Alice, who is a photographer, and she's heading up to Barry's Bay with her grandmother for the summer in the hopes of lifting her grandmother's spirits because her health is not that great. Alice had previously been to Barry's Bay one summer with her grandmother as well, and that summer she took a photo of 2 boys and a girl in a yellow speedboat, and that was her first photo that ever got sold, and I guess really like kickstarted her photography career, really made her want to go in that direction. So Alice heads up to Barry's Bay and quickly finds herself in a whirlwind connection with Charlie. Their chemistry is pretty undeniable, full of banter and sparks, but both are carrying their own insecurities and fears about what it would mean to really be together. While Alice leans on her grandmother for support, Charlie struggles with his own choices and the weight of past mistakes. This book explores how love can be both lighthearted and complicated, especially when timing and fear get in the way. I was really excited to see Charlie again because he had some explaining to do. I really loved the dynamic between Alice and Charlie. I love their banter. They were very funny and amusing. I actually really loved Alice's grandmother in here as well, and Charlie's relationship with her grandmother and just the way that he supports her and taking care of her. I thought that was very sweet. There is past and present timelines in this book. Similar to The Summer Will Be Different. It's not as alternating as the first two. There is more in the present and then a bit in the past. So again, Alice spent a summer in Barry's Bay and she saw Percy, Sam, and Charlie because their home is very close to the cottage that she had stayed at and is currently staying at. So she sort of had an idea and knows of him, whereas like he doesn't know about her. So we kind of see what her thoughts of Charlie in the past were and then how they relate to him presently. We did get to see Sam and Percy again for a little bit, so that was fun. I feel like you do end up really liking Charlie in this book. I feel like he just does so much to be so sweet and caring without intentionally doing it, if you know what I mean. It's as if he's just like, oh, that's just what you do. I just wanted to do that, which then made it very frustrating with his decision at the end. And it's just like, why? Why won't you admit it? I'm glad it wasn't Alice making the impulsive decision. So then Charlie was really the one that had to come back and apologize. I feel like that growth within himself kind of made the ending a lot more satisfying. I did like this a little bit more than book 1. So I'm putting this at 3.5 out of 5. And then the last book that I read this summer is Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. So we have Alice and Hayden, who are 2 writers competing for a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to write the life story of a woman named Margaret. And Margaret comes from a very well-known family. She has essentially disappeared off the face of the earth. She is in her late 70s, I believe, and she has decided now that she might want to have a book written about her life. As Alice and Hayden dig deeper, they begin uncovering pieces of Margaret's mysterious life and the reason she's so determined to leave a legacy. At the same time, they're navigating their own unexpected feelings for each other, which grow stronger every day despite the plenty of obstacles in their way. I really enjoyed the dual storyline where Margaret is retelling her life while we watch Alice and Hayden's will they, won't they dynamic play out. I found Alice's optimism to be such a bright spot in this story, and I found the mystery of why Margaret now wants a book written about her life to be so engaging. I truly wanted to figure out where this was going and throwing out all these ideas of, is it because of this? Is it because of that? So I really enjoyed all of that. I feel like that layer of intrigue made it different from other Emily Henry books that I have read. Again, Alice and Hayden's relationship is slow burn. It's like, are they going to cross the line here? Because they're both trying to be very professional and they're both competing for the same job realistically. So they're like, should we get together? Should we not get together? And again, just excited to read along and like, are they going to do it? Margaret did have them both sign NDAs. So I didn't love that had to be a reason why the relationship wasn't going to go on. I don't want to spoil the ending, but let me know down in the comments if you figured out when you were reading it. There was one part that I was like, okay, I think this happened, but then how everything else ties together, I was like, oh, I did not see that coming. So for me, the blend of romance and mystery in this story really kept me hooked, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. So much so that I would say I think this is the best book that I read this summer, or the one that I enjoyed the most. It's definitely a 4.5 out of 5 for me. And I would say the only reason it's not a 5 is, for me, I categorize a 5 as a book that I will remember forever and that I'm probably going to be so inclined to want to read again. And as much as I enjoyed this, I don't know if I'm going to get those feelings. I think sometimes with books, I don't know, you tell me if you're the same. Like, I'll rate a book a 3. It's a good book, but am I going to remember these characters next year? Probably not. Am I going to remember this story of what went on in their book? Debatable. So for me, a 5 is something that has impacted me so much that I will remember it for a long time. I'm always going to remember these characters. I'm always going to remember the storyline, the setting, just everything that went on in that book. I'm always going to remember. And again, love this book, but I don't think it's quite a 5 for me. But my favorite book that I read this summer. So that is all the books that I read this summer. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you have read these books. Again, do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? I want to know everyone's thoughts. If you like this video, please consider giving it a thumbs up and subscribing for more content. Thank you so much for watching. Bye.